My brother got me excited about aviation. From there, when you decide to do something, you jump in with both feet, or I do at least.
They wanted to do something more. Concept of building something wrapped around World War II aviation.
I think that I've always wanted to build a museum.
From an early age, 6 or 7 years old, all I wanted to be is around these World War II airplanes.
It's amazing how much goes on behind the scenes here.
The museum as a whole is much more than the airplanes. Everything moves, it comes to life.
A learning environment that hopefully can engage everybody.
Telling the story of the people who were there.
And taking that time in our history, let's not do that again.
And I'm going to walk you through what we do every morning to bring the museum to life.
To see it and build it, and then I think in the last 2 years, watch it actually blossom and flourish. There's a lot of museums that are bigger, and I go, absolutely. There's huge museums, but they're not better.
And you take these things that have been sitting out for 40 years in the elements or underwater, you restore them to flying condition using a fair amount of actual parts.
My dad's business went from a couple of guys that were barely making it to a pretty proficient restoration shop, if not the #1 shop in the world, really.
We would say, hey, this is what we need to do, because if not, it's going to take us 6 years to build that project.
So it's quite a feat to restore these airplanes to flying condition. Been fun. It's just been a discussion among friends.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Winged Victory with Rob and Scott, a podcast by the National Museum of World War II Aviation here in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Well, hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Winged Victory. I'm one of your hosts, Rob Gale, and
Scott Clares.
Yeah,
that's
partner
me.
In Pod Crime. Our guest today is Kent Michaelson, one of the docents here, although you do a whole bunch of other stuff too. You run the N3N. And
I do. I've tried to get interested in several things here at the museum.
But we're here mostly to talk about you and the Goonie bird.
Okay.
So you went to a real college?
Yes.
And presumably got commissioned after that or through that?
Went to officer training school after that, but it all began actually in high school when I was a voracious reader, and I asked the librarian, give me a book to read. And he said, well, what are your hobbies? And I said, well, I build model airplanes. And so he gave me a book that changed my life, and that was
Books will do that.
Fate is the Hunter by Ernest Gann.
Oh my God, I'm reading that right now.
Ah.
Rereading it, I should say.
Yep. I've read that many times, and it's essentially his biography. He was an American Airlines airline pilot back in the 30s and 40s, yep. Flew the DC-3s, and then when World War II came, at the beginning, they didn't have any Army pilots that knew how to fly long distances in cargo planes. So they hired a bunch of airline pilots and airline airplanes. And so he did that, flying across the Atlantic in a DC-3 or a C-54, which is a DC-4. And eventually he actually flew the hump, I think, a couple of times too. So that just made me, from then on in high school, I knew I wanted to be a pilot.
So there you go. And you became one.
Yep. Graduated from college and applied for the Air Force and the Navy. And I don't, it was 50 years ago. I don't remember if the Navy ever got back to me, but the Air Force did, and I jumped on it. I graduated in May, and by July, I was in officer training school and in the pipeline.
So it was really like the cargo stuff that really got you going. That was what. That's kind of interesting.
Airline pilot. I never had any desire to be a fighter pilot.
Yeah, because most people, when they see the fighters or think of the fighters, that's the sexy thing about the airplanes. And you were like, I want to go fly some DC-3s. And
well, I knew that the Air Force would be a short-term thing. Even if I did a full 20 years, I could retire from the Air Force at 38 or 40, and then what am I going to do? Yeah. So it seemed like
get a real job.
It seemed like the airlines, the big money, the glamour at the time of Pan Am.
Oh yeah,
was the way to go. Fighters would be fun, but it's going to be over in 10 years, and then what are you going to do?
That makes sense. Makes total sense.
And as I said, I'm reading Fetus the Hunter right now, and there's some scary stories in there.
Yeah.
And that didn't dissuade. Well, you were young.
Yeah, you're invincible then.
Absolutely.
It was the same thing in Vietnam. It never occurred to me that I might not come back. It occurred to my wife and my parents, but not to me.
Well, that's fine, because you don't need those thoughts.
That's right.
So wanting this kind of aircraft, but the C-47 really wasn't prominent in the inventory.
No. Well, at pilot training, when our class package came down, virtually the whole class was going to Vietnam. There was just
one way or another.
One way or another.
So we're talking late 60s here.
71.
71.
Yeah, just
it
tail
was still,
end.
I can attest it was still going in 71.
So I was not high enough in the class to qualify for fighters anyway if I had wanted it, and I was just as happy. And so I ended up with the originally assigned to the AC, the gunships. And so went to that, got trained in the C-47 at England Air Force Base, which sounds glamorous, but it's not in England. It's in Alexandria, Louisiana. So
well, Louisiana's there's not much glorious there.
No, it was hot and sweaty. I was there in the summer.
Good training for Vietnam.
Yes, yep. So I learned to fly the airplane there and checked out on all three missions: the gunship, the what we call the bullshit bomber, the leaflets and speakers, and the electronic warfare. Then I had to prepare for Vietnam, so they sent me to survival school. And I got excellent training in survival school for Vietnam in Spokane, Washington in the winter.
Wow, talk about extremes.
Yep.
Yeah, we camped out in 3 feet of snow there preparing.
There's a lot of snow caves in I-Corps.
Yep. But then on the way to Vietnam, I did stop at Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines for what we called snake school, jungle survival, and that was a week or two of valid training.
Yeah, Johnny and Ashby talked about that in episode 4.
Yeah,
you might remember.
Yep.
But okay, so you did get something.
Oh yeah. Yep. And then now my orders were for 9th SOS, Special Operations Squadron, in Bami-Tui. And as I left Clark, they changed my orders and said, 9th SOS is no more. We're moving the airplanes. Some of them were given to the Vietnamese, and some were going to Saigon. So you'll be in the 360th TEWS, Tactical Electronic Warfare Squadron. So they had some of the airplanes. They had a few of the gunships, a few of the HC, the leaflet and speakers, and mostly electronic warfare.
Well, I'm kind of puzzled at the emphasis on electronic warfare against an opponent that doesn't have a whole lot of electronics. I mean,
true, but what we were doing was we would fly triangles. We had Vietnamese radio operators in the back, and they would listen for North Vietnamese communications.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be sophisticated. It was usually just one guy in a foxhole with a handheld radio, and he was the battalion commander of the 55th Sapper Battalion. And so actually all three airplanes could be involved in this. The ECs would fly around and locate him.
Yep.
And then we could call, it was called a Blue Beetle, and we would call in his exact position, and command posts would send in either fighters or a gunship to take care of him. In the daytime, it was generally fighters, and at night it could be a gunship.
Yeah, I was going to say, most of the gunship flying was at night, wasn't it?
Yeah, most of it. Not all, but most of it.
So I'm guessing you got to stay pretty low level when you're doing these operations, because you're running off a handhold. You're not going to be up 10,000 feet.
The
picking that up.
ECs, we would fly around 7,000.
Okay.
And the gunship, about 3,000.
Yeah, the gunship's definitely got to be pretty close to the ground. So
the way the gunship worked, if you imagine taking the three guns were out the left side of the airplane, firing right down the wing. If you imagine taking a model airplane, tying a string to it, and swinging it around your head, that is a pylon turn, or as any commercial pilot had to do, a turnabout a point.
Yeah.
You're right there. The wing is pointing right at this one point, and as it goes around, it remains aimed there. And that's what we would do. We would fly a pylon turn. Depending on the conditions, the navigator would give us an altitude, an airspeed, and a rate of bank. That would supposedly give us this perfect pylon turn. Of course, we had to adjust for windage. And that would concentrate the fire down. We did have a gun sight. It was a Navy gun sight out the left window. But that was useful in setting it up. But once you're firing, you've got the tracers. We had every fifth bullet was a tracer, and you would adjust the stream that way.
And stream.
I was going to say stream.
Stream it was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of bullets. And
yeah, what kind of guns are they using out of this thing?
They were GAU-10s, which was General Electric. It was an electric-powered Gatling gun, essentially, 6 barrels, firing 30 cal, 7.62 NATO rounds, which is nothing big compared nowadays.
It is if it hits you.
If it hits you, yeah.
But it's basically the granddaddy of the gun that Mark Brush.
Yeah, he was saying that was what, 4,000 rounds a minute.
That's pretty close to
probably
that rate of fire.
Yeah, we could do 6,000, but we normally did 3,000.
It's only dependent on the speed of the electric motor.
Yeah. Yep.
But at night, it looks like a solid stream of neon.
Like he said, you just use the gun sight to get set up, and then you're like, okay, I just want to. It's like playing the, ever played the game at the fair where you're trying to blow up the balloon and you're squirting. Mm-hmm. You just got to watch that stream. Same idea.
Exactly. Yep.
Except for it's in an airplane at 3,000 feet and people are shooting back. A little different.
Yeah, I think the other side tended to take umbrage at that.
They did. There were stories that in the early days it was a dangerous mission. Actually, by the time I got it, things were starting to wind down, and we were seldom shot at seriously. It was not not as dangerous as it had been earlier on.
More of that to whom it may concern thing rather than strictly at Kent.
Yes, that's
or
it.
Kent's airplane.
So I know that's basically kind of the first iteration of gunships, right?
Oh yeah,
was the C-47. So how did you feel that was as a platform? I mean, was it a pretty good platform for that, or was it just because that's all they had at the time? And obviously C-130s and everything else are using.
Sort of both. It was a good platform, but the HC-130 gunships had already come out then. And that's why they turned our ships over to the Vietnamese, because they said Americans will just use this with the 130s.
Mm-hmm.
And of course that, what we had, the guns were called miniguns.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't mean they were small, because they weren't. They were large because they were the electric power, and GE made them. They were miniguns because they were a miniaturized version of the Vulcan cannon, which I believe was later used on the 130s, and that was a big gun. I think it was 20 Mike.
Well, and the Vulcans wound up as fighter guns and all that stuff.
Is that what was in the A-10? I think.
No, the A-10 has its very own special gun.
Yeah,
but I think the Vulcan cannon wound up in, I don't know, the F-104 or something like that. But yeah, so that is the origin of minigun.
Yeah, there's the mini version. I guess mechanically
scaled down.
Yeah.
So what's it like for you at this point? You're flying the C-47, which is essentially what you were reading about that got you even inspired to do this. I mean, the fact that you're even able to do that 30 years after, 25, 30 years later, after the war, World War II ended, how does that make you actually are you like, this is the coolest thing I could be doing? Or...
It sort of, when you're in Vietnam, nothing is.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
I could be doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciated very much the fact that I was flying this historic airplane.
Yeah, and I mean, it's what kind of inspired you to even go in that direction.
Yeah.
So the fact that you even got to kind of full circle that is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I prize the experience of having flown that airplane for a year.
And it was just a year that you flew all those three?
Yeah.
And so post-Vietnam, where to next?
I haven't set foot in a DC-3 since I left Vietnam. Well, other than at an air show. At the air show last year, I got to walk through.
That was a shiny one.
Yeah.
That was nice one.
I think we might have an actual DC-3 flying this year in our air show, so maybe we can... squirt you a ride on that or something.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah,
that'd be kind of cool. Get you back up there doing that.
Yep.
Well, and
so what else? So you had the the C-47 gunship, and then you said you had the electronic warfare. What was the name of that again?
Right, the EC-47.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually only flew a few missions on the gunship before they gave them all away.
Okay.
And then we still had the ECs and the HCs. The EC, as I said, would find the targets.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times in the daytime when they would send fighters in, we would report in that we found the headquarters of the 55th North Vietnamese Sapper Battalion at these coordinates. And the F-4 would go out there and he'd radio back. I couldn't find anything. He's thinking headquarters. He's thinking like 407 7th Mass.
Yeah.
MASH with the jeeps going around and big tents and stuff. This is one guy in a foxhole coordinating his people. And all we could say was, if you hit that coordinate,
he's there.
He's there.
Yeah.
And now that had originally been done at 3,000 AGL. And we raised it up to 7,000. They got better radios, a little bit of computerization to compute the location. You'd need 3 shots, lines of position, one here, and one here, and triangulate it. So we were able to raise it up to 7,000, and that put us out of range of the SAMs that they had in those days. So that was Those were day and night missions, and we went all over Vietnam. They had a sister squadron in Da Nang, and we also headed west to places that we were not supposed to be. And then the other mission was the
leaflets
the leaflets and speakers. Yeah, the leaflets. One of the images I gave you is of that leaflet. It's a Chu Hoi leaflet. We dropped millions of those.
Yeah.
And it basically said, turn yourself in, and we'll give you a goat, and you can be a farmer, and everything is forgiven.
Well, or a lot of the Chu Hois wound up literally turning their coats and fighting against their former comrades. Some of the people who went across the line into all those places where nobody was supposed to be were actually Chu Hois.
So it was pretty effective then, you'd say.
They told us that it cost $350 per Chu Hoi to take someone out of the fight. And if you did it kinetically, it was $10,000. So
yeah, a lot of ammunition
yeah.
and artillery just to take one guy off the board.
Yeah. But we also had the speakers. This was a big, huge speaker. Now, that cargo door on the C-47 is probably 6 feet wide and 6 feet high. And we had a 1,000-watt speaker that just covered that whole door. It had to be swung in and put in place after we were in the airplane. And with that, we would circle. In the daytime, we would usually circle a village, and the village chieftain would radio up a personalized message that we would record and then play it for the benefit of his villagers. And of course, this was all in Vietnamese. We had no idea what he was saying. He could easily have been saying, you know, work hard to get rid of these awful American monsters. We had no idea. But
it could still work.
Yeah.
Now, of course, at nighttime, you're keeping everybody awake.
Well, nighttime was a different story. The nighttime, we had this tape, pre-recorded tape, a Wandering Soul number 10. Now, number 10, first of all, is an unlucky number in Vietnamese.
Yeah, the two extremes are you number 1, you're good. You number 10, you bad.
Yeah. So, Wandering Soul number 10, we would play this at night. 2 a.m., you fly over a North Vietnamese encampment and play this tape. And basically, it starts out with a Buddhist funeral dirge. And then this echoey voice in Vietnamese. In Vietnamese culture, you want to be buried in your homeland. You're considered a wandering soul if you die elsewhere and your ghost has to try and find its way home. And that's considered very, very unlucky. So there's this ghostly voice that I was killed in the battle away from my home, and I'm wandering forever, searching for my homeland. And then his wife's voice comes on. My husband is missing. He's not home anymore. Or the family is missing our husband. And maybe a child's voice. Very effective, you know, for some 17-year-old Vietnamese impressed soldier down there. And they didn't like that. So now this, what I'm talking about now is before I got there. But the HC would be orbiting around playing this. They didn't like that, so they would start shooting at us, okay, or shooting at the bullshit bomber. Well, they didn't know 500 feet below us and a half mile behind us was a gunship with its lights off. So as soon as they fire, now it's on.
Position.
Oh, wow.
And the battle's on.
Well, it's not like you can tell the difference between airplanes by the sound. It's the same airplane.
Oh, well, they couldn't hear it anyway over the funeral dirge and the Wandering Soul number 10.
I wonder who came up with all that idea.
Oh,
Hey, let's put a speaker in this thing and go fly around. Man, the amperage you got to have to even get that to project, I would think, from that high would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, we had specific, based on the wind, specific altitudes, usually around 3,000 AGL. You get any higher, and they can't hear it, and you get any lower, and apparently either Doppler effect or echoing off the ground, it becomes distorted. So we had specific altitude there, and a lot of it was based on the wind. We would adjust our circle so the wind would actually blow the sound towards them.
Well, they did that sort of thing in a lot of other platforms. A friend of mine wound up doing it in a bird dog.
Oh, really?
They put speakers in, they had a lot of them in the Skymasters. What is it? The
Cessna
Yeah.
02.
02, yeah. They had
Same
speakers
thing.
in those too. Yeah.
So how long do you go on doing this?
Well, that was till the end of the tour. Mostly EC. They were sort of phasing out the HC at that time too. So most of my missions were EC. But one interesting thing, military is big on frag time. You are fragged for a fragmentation order. You are fragged for a 4-hour mission. So the daytime ops, we would go out there and do our thing. As I said, the local commander would radio up his message. We'd circle the village and play it. Well, you're not going to circle a village and play the same message for 4 hours. But they didn't want us to land before 4 hours was up because the squadron got their funding from airplane hours. So, well, sometimes they wanted us to come back to Tansanut and do touch and goes. Well, Tansanut was as busy in those days as Atlanta or Chicago. I mean, there was a lot of airplanes, a mix of jets, high-speed, high-performance jets, and C-47s and O2s and everything.
So and all the passenger planes bringing guys in and out, too.
The Freedom Bird, the Pan Am. So we didn't really want to hang around Saigon doing touch and goes. So we would go out to Vung Tau, which was a beach town where they had in-country R&R. And there's all these soldiers out there on the beach. And so we'd spend an hour just flying back and forth, playing rock and roll, Janis Joplin, for the...
Little bit of morale work.
In the middle of a war, and you guys are playing DJ. I love it.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Well, it's better with a soundtrack.
Well, I guess. Well, so it really was a Vietnam movie.
Oh, yeah. You know, when the other movies came out, some of that stuff was realistic. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
So how many hours did you wind up with in type?
Somewhere around 600 to 800 hours.
So you only ran one tour over there?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what comes after that?
Well, at the end of my tour, we were about 2 months from the end of my tour, and I had started this out as a brand new second lieutenant, so I was a co-pilot. So I upgraded to aircraft commander, and the day after I upgraded to aircraft commander, the squadron commander came and said, okay, they changed the orders. All the co-pilots are going to go home early, and all the aircraft commanders are going to go to NKP.
I feel like that was done on purpose.
Well, he knew. There were 5 of us that upgraded that day, and he knew what he was doing to us.
NKP, you need
Nakhon Phanom in Thailand.
Yeah.
And so we finished the tour there.
Well, there are worse places.
There are, yeah.
Hi, we're here at the National Museum of World War II Aviation in Colorado Springs, Colorado, in front of our B-25, and we'd like to show you something.
All right, you see this dipstick? You see that number right there? It says 37.5. That's not 37.5 quarts, it's 37.5 gallons of oil. And that's just for one engine. So take a look around. And you can see for yourself just how much oil
could be required to keep this museum flying. This is where our friends at Blazing Aviation come into play.
Blazing Aviation has been partners with the National Museum of World War II Aviation in Colorado Springs for years now, as well as outfitting the Pikes Peak Regional Airshow. And honestly, without their support and the most competitive pricing on the market, keeping these rare birds in the air on a regular basis would be a much harder proposition. With products such as Aeroshell, aviation oil, and Phillips smoke oil, or just your everyday needs in greases and even de-icing fluids, our friends at Blazing Aviation are ready to help you with your needs at the right price.
Look, whether you're a pilot, maintainer, or an owner, there are just some things that you have to fly that airplane. Why not get those things at the best price from the people you know and trust? Get them from Blazing Aviation. Go to blazingaviation.com, airplaneoil.com, or just give them a call at 888-394-0983. And as always, let them know you heard it here on the Wing Victory Podcast.
So
you get home from the war.
Well, they said,
now what?
After you've done your tour in Vietnam, you can get any assignment you want, just put in for it. So we saw that everybody was putting in for C-141s, and they were all getting sent to SAC, to B-52s. But they did say if that happens, you can at least get the base you want. So my buddy and I both said, all right, we can see the light. We're going to go to SAC. We'd rather go to tankers than B-52s. So we put in for Plattsburgh Air Force Base in upstate New York and Pease Air Force Base in New Hampshire. And the secret there is those were two SAC bases that did not have B-52s.
Just tankers.
Just tankers and FB-111s. And coming from the C-47, we were probably not going to be sent to FB-111s. So we did. We both ended up at Plattsburgh flying tankers. So that was a good tour.
Yeah, that's basically a 707.
Yeah. And so then there again, because I had no heavy jet time, I started out in the right seat again. And I was in the upgrade program for aircraft commander, and they came down and they said, all right, we're going to have a big reduction in force, a big RIF, and all the co-pilots and people in the pipeline are going to be riffed out of the service. And so essentially, the guys that had been in SAC all along were aircraft commanders. They got to stay in, and those of us that had been to Vietnam and had to come back as co-pilots were riffed. So I got my $10,000 bonus and became a civilian. Went and did single engine airplane instruction, went to a local FBO, got a citation type rating, and taught people to fly Cherokees. Went back into the reserves now in Massachusetts, and they were flying at the time C-123s. So I had big engine time. I had R-1830s in the Goonie Bird, and the C-123 had R-2800s. So I was familiar with the engines. I was familiar with flying 1940s airplanes.
Yeah.
So these were old spray birds. They had done, these were the airplanes that had done ranch hand in Vietnam. Of course, by this time, Vietnam was over. You get in those airplanes on a humid day, and you can smell the Agent Orange. But it was sort of a fun airplane to fly. You could land it on a dime. Flew that for a couple of years, and then they changed us over to C-130s. So I got to fly the C-130. That was a fun airplane. I really loved the airplane But it's funny, you don't, like they say, be careful what you wish for. So we would look at these C-141s and C-5s coming into, this was at Westover Air Force Base in Massachusetts. We'd watch them, and there we are in our 130, and okay, it was a beautifully fun airplane. You know, you could land on a dime. We had all these interesting missions, cargo, dropping paratroopers. We'd go down to Fort Benning, Georgia for a week and drop their jump school there. But we'd always, the whole squadron, we were always looking over at these 141s that were flying to Frankfurt and Torrejon and the C-5s. And eventually they got rid of the 130s and gave us C-5s. And that was the Great Awakening. This is an airplane that can break on a dime. It can physically.
So these must be the early models, obviously, that Don was talking about.
Yes, yep. It's funny. We had interesting places to go to.
And stay,
yeah. There was one thing, if we went to a place where the enlisted part of the crew wanted to stay, now we had generally on these long-range missions, we'd fly with 3 or 4 pilots to take breaks, the 3 or 4 flight engineers, because it had an engineer panel, and a bunch of loadmasters. And if they decided they wanted to stay in Torrejon in Spain,
something broke.
Something always broke, yeah. And we would go down to Honduras and support mostly a CIA mission down there, drugs. They made up counter drugs, yeah. They made up these T-shirts. This was the days of FedEx, and if it absolutely, positively has to be there on time, FedEx. So they made up these T-shirts. If it absolutely, positively has to get there at all, and there was a big C5 with a slash through it.
Yep.
Not the C5.
But it was interesting flying an airplane the size of a mountain. As Don said, anybody that's interested in that, I think it's number 20, podcast number 20.
I think so. Don?
I don't remember.
Yeah, that's probably about
that was
20. I don't know.
That was yesterday.
Bash around and
yeah,
you'll find something cool,
yeah.
Whether it's
look through
Don
the episodes. So did you? I guess last question for me. Did you ever make it to the airlines?
Yeah, I did. While I was in the reserves, I got hired. First, I got hired by Braniff. Now, Braniff is long gone. It was a Texas airline.
Yep.
And so I flew with them for 2 years, 727 flight engineer. And then they went out of business, and I got picked up by Northeastern, not Northeast Airlines, which became part of Delta, but Northeastern, which is a little upstart. And I was there less than a year before they went under. And so I went to Eastern, got hired by Eastern Airlines, and that was good. Again, engineer. This was on the A300. The original A300 had a 3-man crew, a flight engineer station. And so I was a flight engineer with them. You know, it's all based on seniority, and I was never at any of these airlines long enough to make it
anything.
to the right seat.
Which again is a point Ernest Gann made in that book.
Yep. Seniority is following you.
So you're an airline gypsy.
Yep.
How do you wind up in Colorado?
Well, finally,
and specifically with this outfit.
Finally, I saw Eastern going down. You know, I had experience now with bankrupt airlines.
I've seen this pattern.
So I bailed out early and got on with American Airlines and did a full career with them, 20 years. Again, because of seniority, I never made captain on the big airplanes. I retired as a captain on the 737, which I love that airplane. That's
a lot of people do.
Probably my favorite airplane I've ever flown. It really is a great airplane. After I retired, now my son was in the Air Force. He was in space, what now would be space, then was Space Command. It would now be Space Force. So he was based out here. met his wife. She was also based here. And they were raising a family. He got out. He's now a firefighter in Aurora. And she's a civilian contractor doing things that if she told us what
Out
she
at
did.
Buckley,
yeah,
probably.
No,
Yeah.
no, actually down here.
Okay.
But,
But still.
If we knew what she was doing, she'd have to kill us. So I retired in 2007, and most of my friends were either going to Florida or going to where their kids were. And I had no job holding me there, so we said, well, let's go to Colorado and be with the kids. So
Best reason ever.
that's how I ended up here. And my son one day said, you know, there's a funky museum down there we ought to go visit. So I came here, and that's how I ended up here.
And the rest is history, as they say.
As they say. But here's another fascinating thing about Kent is you are still flying and you're still teaching.
Yeah.
But you got rated in sailplanes, 2 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, I heard about a glider club out at Meadow Lake Airport and joined that, got my commercial glider license, and then I added on. Now, I already had a CFI, a certified flight instructor from 50 years ago. I hadn't instructed for 50 years, but the license is valid till you die. So I added glider pilot to that. At age 78, I added a glider rating, and I teach out there now.
Well, keep it up. You might see me out there next summer.
Absolutely. You wouldn't be able to fly with me, though.
That's okay.
Because we have our airplanes, we have a 380-pound total passenger weight, or passenger and pilot weight. And I think the two of us together...
He's getting his knee fixed. He's going to start working on that.
Yeah. He's been talking to your dad is what he's doing. Tell
So,
Rob
I
he
mean-
needs to shed some weight.
Well, it's not you, it's me too. I mean, I'm 190, so two of me would overgross those gliders.
So
Well,
would you have ever...
What that means is I have to find some lissome young instructor to teach me.
Yeah.
You know.
A WAIF model.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Well, hey.
We do have some lighter instructors that you could fly with.
So looking back on your life, I mean, could you have believed when you picked up that book back in school that you would have the life that you had?
No.
Just
No,
from that small little bit of inspiration.
Yeah, at the time I had no idea what my life would be like, but
who does?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like it's been a very fortunate life of yours.
It has. I've been married now for over 50 years to the same woman, and had one boy that I'm very proud of. I don't regret a thing. There's very little that I would have changed.
That's great. Thanks for taking the time, Ken.
Maybe I would have gotten on with American from the start.
Yeah, there you
go.
And then I would have retired off of big airplanes.
As a captain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't regret anything, just small tweaks.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's a good place to be, and a good place to leave this one.
Yep.
And
I hope you continue to live long and prosper.
Well, I'll continue here. I'm looking forward to the expansion, and I'm still hoping that we'll eventually end up with a DC-3 or a C-47.
You never know. That's the way this thing works.
I'd love to see that myself.
Well, thank you, Kent. We really appreciate you sitting down with us.
My pleasure.
Well, once again, hang out with these guys, and I learned new things. I mean, I knew about the gliders, but I had no idea he flew C-5s.
Well, this is the first I've heard of any of these stories at all, you know. I mean, and he's been around here for quite some time now, but,
oh, yeah.
you know, there's so many people here, and you're always so busy doing stuff that...
Well, you in particular who actually have a real job and real skills and do stuff. The rest of us wander around and shoot the breeze.
Yeah, still, though, you feel like, gosh, man, what am I missing out here with so many of these guys? And
well...
I mean, to be the first gunship, you know, flying one of the first gunships, and I mean, it's just kind of really cool that, you know, you read a book from a guy that probably flew those airplanes when they were new, and then he gets to fly them like at the very end of their career.
Except they're still going strong 90 years on.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what I mean, as far as like U.S. military.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
I mean, you would not have thought that they would still be using an airplane 30 years on, except, oh, wait a minute, the B-52.
Well, yeah, A-10. I mean, they keep trying to get rid of some of these airplanes, and then they realize, well, they're a really good platform. Why are we doing that?
Yeah.
But, you know, so we'll just retrofit. But, I mean, you can only do that so long, you know.
Yeah.
How long do you want to have a tail dragger in the Air Force?
Well, probably, but, you know, that is such a classic airplane. And you're right, the Ernest Gann book, he started out in DC-2s.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just a fabulous story. That's when I was talking to you about airplane books, that was the one that sort of sparked that.
Yeah.
But
well, I never even knew that they made a C-47 gunship. That's as limited as my knowledge is, but it's kind of cool, kind of a non sequitur, but you know, the CAF down in Texas, they've acquired a C-47 and they're turning it into a spooky gunship.
Which is,
so
I mean,
it'll be able to see that on the circuit.
Yeah, and the way CAF is doing it is just exactly how it was done, and I think it was done in country. Is they just took a Goonie bird and stuck 3 miniguns out the left side of the airplane.
Yeah. It's kind of like what they were doing with the B-25 gunships and stuff in World War II. So
exactly.
You just got some innovators on the ground. They're like, hey, we need a better platform. We need something that could do this specific job.
And
that'll work. Let's cut that out.
Again, I have friends who owe their lives to those airplanes.
Yeah.
So that's may not be the coolest looking thing in the world, but there's quite a fan club.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They called that one, all the gunships have different names, and they called that one Puff the Magic Dragon after the Peter, Paul, and Mary song of, you know, that era. And then they have since become Spooky, Spectre. I think now they're called Ghost Rider or something. But we still have gunships, but Kent and his people were the pioneers.
Yeah, well, you got to have those guys.
Yep.
Willing to do that.
Well, sir, thanks once again.
Well, we'd like to thank Blazing Aviation, aviationoil.com. Thanks again for being a sponsor of this.
Yep.
There's little updates on the new pavilion that's being done. They just poured the first half of the main slab. They'll be pouring the second half probably after this airs, which means that they'll be erecting the building soon. So actually, we've been pretty blessed with the weather out here.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, not really, because, you know, obviously everybody knows the snow is non-existent this year, which is kind of vital.
Well,
but
you ski people.
Yeah, well, you couldn't pick a better winter to try to build a building in Colorado.
Yeah.
Because it's just been kind of ridiculous with the weather. So we're kind of, I don't want to say ahead of schedule, but I think they're a little ahead of schedule on that. But still a little behind on the funding. So if you would have any inkling at all to support this museum, just go to the website. It's on our page. I think it's worldwariiaviation.org.
Exactly.
They'll obviously accept any kind of donation there. We also highly recommend that you come out and just see this place for yourself. This is a great time, especially if you're a photographer, because it's kind of a slower time of year, which means you get really unobstructed views. You don't have people walking into your pictures, and it's a good time to get out here and just take some pictures.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Because all of these photogenic airplanes, you know, that the Saturday crew keeps them just pristine.
Well, try.
And
it's hard to keep them all clean.
Well, I actually like a little.
Yeah, I think everybody
oil
likes
smoke
it
on the fuselage.
Yeah.
is more authentic.
Yeah, well, it's alive, so you know.
Yep.
They leak. They got things going on. We got to take care of.
Yep.
Well, anyway, so I guess we'll just call this one. And I'd like to say thanks for Kent Michaelson for sitting down with us today and sharing some of those amazing stories. We got William Stephenson behind the cameras, my partner Rob Gale, and myself, Scott Clares. Stay safe out there.